Hi there, and welcome to Mom Chronicles Live, a series where we talk about what it means to care for our elderly parents. I'm Brett Will Taylor. You know, John Lennon once said that life is what happens when you're busy making other plans, though some think it was Alan Saunders who said that first in Reader's Digest, but that's another episode. For a lot of us, 2020 sure feels a lot like something big that has happened while we were busy making other plans. Certainly, that is true of our guest today, New Orleans social worker and Tulane University professor Dee Hayes, and retired judge and longtime mental health advocate, also from New Orleans, Calvin Johnson. Dee and Calvin, welcome.
Oh,
Hi.
welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Brett. Will.
Now, I should point out that Dee and Calvin are married. Even though they're on a split screen, they're just being all professional and they're in two separate rooms. But they are married. I also should point out that y'all aren't here because of your resumes, as impressive and relevant as they are. You're here because while you were making other plans, which included building a new home on Bayou St. John in New Orleans, COVID-19 happened. And when it happened, like a lot of people, you found yourself caring for an elderly parent, in particular, Dee's mom. Now, unlike a lot of people, you care for Dee's mom not by moving her into your house, but by you two moving into her house, which I imagine is a big shift. So tell us about that, Dee. How's that going?
It's going.
It's what?
Going. It's like going back to your old room, which is really weird. That part was really weird for me, going back to my own room, my old room. But a part of the reason we did that was because our house has the bedrooms upstairs. And my mom, when she should have gotten double knee replacement, she did not. And she suffers with her knees, and to get her up and down the steps would be a true challenge. So we decided to make the shift, and we started out by spending every night at her house, thinking it would be really temporary, and it has not been. Prior to that, we had sitters who were there most nights, and we would stay like a couple of nights a week, but now we're at 7 nights a week.
And your mom how is she doing physically, mentally? You talked about her knees. Does she have other challenges?
That's about it. She's healthy.
Yeah.
She's really healthy. She has a doctor's appointment tomorrow. But so she has dementia, and it is progressive, as dementia is. And so she has good days and she has bad days. Most days she's good. And so in the days that she's good, she's really sweet, and she talks about, she sings like church songs, and she says thank you, and God bless you, and all of those things.
And then there's the other days.
And then there are the other days.
And how is that?
The other days she can be a little what's the word? Flip. I have a church member who has a mom who has dementia, and that's the word she uses, is flip.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
She can be a little flip. So yeah.
And Calvin, you're sitting there all quiet, which anyone who knows you is probably shocked to see. This is the longest I've ever seen you quiet.
Mm-hmm.
But I know on some days, Dee's mom mistakes you for somebody else, shall we say, or mistakes your role as for somebody else.
It's interesting at this stage of life to live with my wife in her childhood bedroom. I mean, in her childhood bedroom, that's where now we live, and it's interesting in all
So
aspects.
you're literally back in your room, Dee. You're literally back in your room.
Literally back in my room. Yes.
Literally. I mean, and it's what the pandemic has done to folk like us is just it's almost at least some of us, at least this one of us, without words enough to describe.
Yeah.
I mean, we today, right now, we're in our house, right?
Yeah.
We're in our house right now because we have another lady. Dee's mom is 92, by the way. Her mom is 92.
Just
So we
had her
have,
birthday, right? And y'all
she
did a
just had a
drive-by
birthday.
birthday party? Yep.
The 18th, yeah.
Well, we have another a lady who just happens to be 85.
So she's
Who,
young.
and she's young, 85, who comes during the day, some days, not every day, but at least I think 5 days a week. She comes for about 4 hours a day, and so that gives us some respite in terms of being in our own house. But I mean, it's like life interrupted, and because there's never a real flow now to our own life, because we're living it in two separate places, two different places, and we're trying to keep up with a lot of other things. At least Dee is trying to keep up with her full life. I mean, she has a full life. She has Tulane. She's teaching. She's a social worker. She's a therapist. She's doing telemed stuff. She has a full life, and of course, there's her mom, and then there's her needy husband, who is just needy, and sometimes will express things like, well, what about Cal? With all respect to this, what about me? I mean, that's just realness. And again, doing it with her mom, who, as you said and we've shared, some days she's really, really a nice person. She's a nice woman, really sweet. She has a tremendous sense of humor. But then sometimes she's none of those things, okay? And most times when she's none of those things, she is most hard on Dee. So to see her, and I mean, this is Dee's mom, but from a husband perspective, to see this woman talking about my wife, I mean, come on, you're talking about my wife. I mean, with all respect to you, I hear you. I know you have dementia, and I know all of that, but you're talking about my wife. Come on.
So that's interesting because one of the things I wanted to ask you, Dee, is you're a trained social worker and you've been a social worker for quite some time. I mean, this is not only your career, this is your passion, this is a big part of your life. And so caring for our parents as they get older, mother-daughter issues, childhood home issues, I mean, all that stuff I'm sure you've seen come up in clients. How has that prepared you for this? And what didn't begin to prepare you for it actually happening to you?
Well, having a little bit of a skill set is helpful. But unfortunately, sometimes you're not in that zone. You're in the daughter zone and not in the skill zone. When I'm in the skill zone, I do the best. I do really good. But I guess to say that I have certain skills that help me to manage it well. And I think being able to see it progress and see, like being able to see like, okay, so we had the fall, so we know we have to make these preparations. And so, now we've had this happen. Now we know we need to do this, or we see this change in behavior. So that, because I'm a social worker, I'm able to actually see those things and to prepare for them in that manner. I think being able to make a plan is very helpful. Like when we first saw that her memory was really getting bad, and it was like, okay, so we need sitters. So to have the knowledge to know we need sitters, and then to have the connections, quite frankly, to be able to call a person up and say, hey, I need a sitter. Can you help me? And to be able to have that happen for you because you've built relationships in the community over the course of time. And, and so what it makes you see, though, is for those people who don't have that, it makes you have a lot of empathy for what they're going through, for sure.
So Calvin, I want to ask you this, and this is crazy to me. I was looking up, getting ready for this. 40.4 million Americans who are 65 or older are caring for another senior. I mean, that's crazy. 40.4 million Americans. And that number will probably go up as the baby boomers retire. So, you're in the senior category, Calvin Johnson, and had your life and your plans, et cetera. What has this done for you? What's this like for you? You talked about moving into your wife's childhood bedroom with your wife. I assume you're not doing the 1950s, 1960s thing with 2 twin beds, but
No.
okay, all right. But but Calvin, what's this been like?
It has really been a change from our life. We have had a very lack of a better word, good life. I mean, the two of us, and we share so much in terms of personality. We share so much in terms of like. We like a lot of the same stuff. We don't have much in terms of disagreement. I mean, like Dee said, though, neither of us can maintain much in terms of anger. We'll spout off, and then we forget what we spotted off about. We just don't do that kind of thing well. So we still have that, even though we've moved in with our mom. But it's just it grates on you after a while. I mean, it just does. And Dee, with all respect to my lovely wife, but it does. It grates on her. It really, really does. And one of the things that she has said, and maybe she'll share this, but that she has said, is it speaks to a fundamental flaw in terms of this country and how it now goes at dealing with this aging population and how it is doing such a poor job of recognizing the fact that this population, this American population, is becoming old, very old, and we're living long, and we're becoming older, and in need of a lot more that the country as a whole doesn't have to offer. Which is why what you said, 65s and up are taking care of 85s and up.
Yeah.
And because there's nothing else we don't have anything else to offer, very little else to offer.
Well, I think, Calvin, I'm glad you mentioned that, and I'd love to hear both y'all's perspectives. One of the things, and when I started doing Mom Chronicles, it was really almost just like writing as therapy, as I was dealing with moving my own mom into assisted living and sort of sorting through my own experiences. But what I've realized over the last year and a half is America does not have a social contract with our elders. We basically treat our elders as citizens at will. And when elders hit a certain age, you're done. It's out of sight, out of mind, out of heart. And that has to change, not only because of numbers, but I think just out of humanity. Because, Dee, to your point, there are the tasks to get done caring for an elder parent, right? Whether they're living with you or they're living in a senior community. But I think it's the heart, it's the love, it's the compassion, which is also so important, but seems to be missing. So, Dee, what do you think about that?
Well, I think COVID shined a light on that. When you look at the amount of elderly people who died in nursing homes and in facilities, specifically in our area, in the New Orleans area, and even in Houston, Texas, all of those areas, where the elderly were the most vulnerable and the victims of COVID. And a lot of it has to do with me and my life, that so many elderly that are housed in other places don't necessarily have to be housed in other places. Because if the federal government were able to at least provide some assistance, then those people could be in the comfort of their homes and they would not have had to be in a facility. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that your Medicare plan, such as your People's Health Plan, does not pay for any inpatient or residential care unless it's skilled nursing, right? That's temporary. So, and then for you to be in a facility, it costs, I think, $6,000 or more a month for a person to live in a facility. And for them to get assistance to live in a facility, they have to be basically destitute or have to sell all of their property to get
Right.
that assistance. And so that in and of itself is just an abomination in terms of how we care for our elderly.
Yeah.
And then in terms of, if that person wanted to stay home in their homes, then their children or their caretakers have to come out of pocket to pay for that. And that is, of course, cost prohibitive.
Well, and I think, we also, we don't have a society. We have made great strides in recent years in the workplace, allowing both women and men to take time to care for for newborns. It's very much the norm to take time off for different games, etc. And it's celebrated, right? That's part of being a good person. And that is not the case when it comes to caring for an elder parent.
No,